I should have left when I heard the first scream, but I didn't. I stood there in the kitchen, plastic cup trembling in my hand, telling myself it was just someone playing around, just teenage drama, just another Friday night at another house party in another town where I didn't belong. The bass from the speakers in the living room thumped against my chest like a second heartbeat. Too fast. Too loud. I pressed my back against the granite counter and watched condensation drip down the sides of beer bottles scattered across the island. This was a mistake. 3 weeks. That's how long I'd been in Millbrook. 3 weeks since Mom's job transfer dragged me away from everything familiar and dropped me into this suffocating suburban maze where every house looked identical and every face was a stranger's. Except for Mia's. You came. Her voice cut through the music as she bounced into the kitchen, her blonde curls catching the harsh overhead light. She wore that same bright smile that had drawn me to her on my first day at Millbrook Community College. The smile that had made me think, maybe, just maybe, this move wouldn't be so bad after all. "Thanks for inviting me," I said, though the words felt heavy in my mouth. The party had been her idea, of course. "You need to meet people, Emma. You can't hide forever." She'd cornered me after third period chemistry, her enthusiasm infectious, even as my stomach churned with anxiety. Now, surrounded by faces I didn't recognize and voices that all seemed to blur together, I wondered if hiding might have been the smarter choice. "Come on, I want you to meet everyone." Mia grabbed my wrist, her fingers cold against my skin. "They're going to love you." She pulled me through the kitchen and into the main living area, where bodies pressed together in the dim light. The air was thick with sweat and cheap perfume, and something else. Something metallic that made my throat constrict. "That's Jake over there." Mia pointed to a tall guy with dark hair who was leaning against the mantelpiece, his laugh too loud for the joke being told. "He's on the college football team, total sweetheart, but don't let his ego fool you." Jake caught us looking and raised his beer in our direction. His smile was crooked, charming in that practiced way that probably worked on most girls. "And that's Sarah," Mia continued, indicating a petite brunette who sat curled up on the leather couch. "She's in my literature class. Super smart, but kind of intense, you know?" Sarah's eyes met mine across the room. She didn't smile, just watched with the kind of focus that made my skin crawl. "Oh, and there's Marcus." Mia's voice dropped slightly as she nodded toward a guy standing alone by the sliding glass doors that led to the backyard. He was smaller than the others, with wire-rimmed glasses and clothes that looked like his mother had picked them out. He's Marcus. The way she said it made me want to ask questions, but before I could, the music suddenly cut out. The silence hit like a physical blow. "What the hell?" someone muttered. In the sudden quiet, I could hear everything. The hum of the refrigerator, the tick of a clock somewhere, my own heartbeat hammering against my ribs. And then, from upstairs, came a sound that made my blood freeze. A wet thud, like something heavy hitting the floor. "Did you guys hear that?" Sarah's voice was barely a whisper. We all looked up at the ceiling, waiting, listening. Nothing. Jake laughed, but it sounded forced. Probably just Alex up there with Chloe. You know how he gets? A few people chuckled, but the tension didn't break. It stretched between us like a wire about to snap. "Someone should check," Marcus said quietly. It was the first time I'd heard him speak all night. "Why?" Jake's voice had an edge to it now. "Let them have their privacy." Because it didn't sound right. Sarah stood up from the couch, her movements sharp and deliberate. That wasn't a normal sound. She's right. The thought came unbidden, but I couldn't shake it. The sound had been wrong. Too heavy, too final. "I'll go look." The words left my mouth before I could stop them. Everyone turned to stare at me. The new girl, the outsider, the one who had no business making suggestions. "Emma, no." Mia's grip tightened on my wrist. "You don't need to do that." But I was already moving toward the stairs. Maybe it was because I was tired of feeling invisible. Maybe it was because the sound had triggered something primal in my brain that demanded investigation. Or maybe it was because I already knew, somewhere deep in my gut, that something terrible had happened. The wooden steps creaked under my weight. Each sound seemed amplified in the silence that had settled over the house like a burial shroud. Behind me, I could hear hushed conversations starting up again, but the voices felt distant, unreal. The upstairs hallway stretched ahead of me, lit only by moonlight streaming through a window at the far end. Doors lined both sides, most of them closed, but one was slightly ajar, and from beneath it came a thin line of yellow light. I moved toward it, my sneakers silent on the carpet. The smell hit me first. Copper and salt, and something sweet that made my stomach lurch. I knew that smell, though I'd never experienced it this strong before. Blood. My hand trembled as I reached for the door handle. Every instinct screamed at me to turn around, to go back downstairs, to pretend I'd never heard that sound. But I pushed the door open anyway. The bedroom was small and neat, with pale blue walls and a twin bed pushed against the far corner. Alex sat on the edge of that bed, his head in his hands, shoulders shaking. "Alex?" My voice came out as a croak. He looked up at me with eyes that were wild and desperate. There was blood on his hands, on his clothes, splattered across his face like abstract art. "I didn't mean to," he whispered. "God, Emma, I didn't mean to." That's when I saw her. Chloe lay crumpled on the floor beside the bed, her long red hair fanned out around her head like spilled wine. Her eyes stared at nothing, and there was so much blood. Too much blood. A baseball bat lay beside her, its wooden surface dark and wet. "She was going to tell everyone," Alex said, his voice breaking, "about what I did, what I've been doing. I couldn't let her ruin everything." The world tilted sideways. My vision blurred at the edges, and I had to grab the door frame to keep from falling. "Alex," I tried to form words, but nothing came. "You have to help me." He stood up slowly, and I saw how tall he really was, how strong, how his hands were still wet with blood. "You have to help me figure out what to do. Run." The thought cut through my shock like a knife. Run right now. But before I could move, footsteps echoed in the hallway behind me. "Emma?" Mia's voice. "Is everything okay up there?" Alex's eyes locked onto mine. In them, I saw desperation transform into something much more dangerous. Calculation. "If you scream," he said quietly, "I'll have to hurt them too." My mouth opened, but no sound came out. Behind me, I could hear more footsteps. Multiple people coming up the stairs. "Emma?" Jake's voice now, closer than before. "Tell them everything's fine," Alex whispered. "Tell them Chloe and I are talking." The footsteps were right outside the door now. I could hear breathing, whispers. "I can't," I managed to say. Alex's face twisted with rage. He picked up the bat. "Emma, what's—" Jake appeared in the doorway behind me, and his words died in his throat. For a moment, nobody moved. Nobody breathed. Then Alex smiled. "Welcome to the party," he said. Everything happened too fast after that. Jake lunged forward, but Alex was ready. The bat caught him across the side of the head with that same wet sound I'd heard from downstairs. Jake dropped like a stone. Mia screamed. I stumbled backward into the hallway as people scattered. Sarah ran for the stairs. Marcus pressed himself against the wall like he was trying to disappear into it. "Nobody leaves," Alex called out, his voice eerily calm. "Nobody calls the cops. We're going to sit down and talk about this like civilized people." But we weren't civilized people anymore. We were animals trapped in a cage with a predator. The next few minutes blurred together in a nightmare of panic and violence. Alex moved through the house like a hurricane, the bat swinging with methodical precision. He wasn't random about it. He wasn't crazy. He was hunting. I made it to the kitchen before he caught up with me. My hands shook as I fumbled for my phone, trying to dial 911, but the screen kept slipping from my bloody fingers. "I really wish you hadn't seen that," Alex said from behind me. I spun around, pressing my back against the counter. He stood in the doorway, blocking my only exit. The bat hung loose in his right hand, dripping steadily onto the tile floor. "Why?" The word came out as a sob. "Because now I have to kill you, too." He sounded genuinely sad about it. "I liked you, Emma. You were nice to me when nobody else was." "What?" Confusion cut through my terror. "Alex, I never... At lunch yesterday, you smiled at me, said hi when I walked past your table." His face lit up with a grotesque parody of happiness. "Nobody ever does that." I stared at him, trying to remember. Had I smiled at him? It was possible. I smiled at lots of people, trying to be friendly in this new place, trying to fit in. Oh God. The realization hit me like ice water. He thinks we had some kind of connection. "That didn't mean anything," I whispered. "I was just being polite." His expression darkened. "Just being polite." The bat twitched in his grip. "Do you know what it's like?" he asked. "To be invisible? To have people look right through you like you don't exist?" I couldn't answer. My throat had closed up completely. Chloe saw me watching her change clothes through her bedroom window. She was going to tell everyone I was a creep, a pervert. His voice rose with each word. "But I'm not. I just wanted someone to notice me, Alex. And then you came along. New girl, fresh start. I thought maybe you'd be different." The kitchen felt smaller with each passing second. The walls seemed to press inward, crushing the air from my lungs. "But you're just like the rest of them, aren't you?" He stepped closer, just being polite. Behind him, I caught a glimpse of movement in the hallway. a shadow detaching itself from the wall. My heart leaped with hope. Marcus appeared in the doorway, moving silent as death. In his hands was a kitchen knife from the block on the counter. Yes, I thought, someone's going to help me. But as he raised the blade, I saw something in his face that made my blood freeze. He wasn't looking at Alex. He was looking at me. The knife came down in a perfect arc, sliding between my ribs with surgical precision. Pain exploded through my chest, white hot and absolute. I looked down at the handle protruding from my side, then up at Marcus's face. He was smiling. "Sorry, Emma," he said softly, "but you saw too much." Alex spun around, his mouth falling open in shock. "Marcus? What the hell are you doing?" "Cleaning up your mess." Marcus pulled the knife free, and I collapsed against the counter, my legs no longer able to support my weight. "You're too sloppy, Alex. Too emotional." Blood ran between my fingers as I pressed my hands to the wound. The kitchen tilted and swayed like I was on a boat in rough seas. "You did this?" Alex's voice was barely a whisper. "You killed them." Marcus nodded, still smiling that horrible smile. Chloe was getting too close to the truth. She'd figured out about the cameras I put in the girls' locker room, about the photos I've been taking. My vision blurred, but I could see Alex backing away from him. The bat shook in his grip. "I framed you perfectly, didn't I?" Marcus continued. "Made you think she was going to expose some secret of yours. All I had to do was whisper the right words in your ear, and you did exactly what I knew you'd do." "You're insane," Alex breathed. "I'm careful." Marcus wiped the knife clean on his shirt. Nobody ever suspects the quiet kid, the invisible one. He looked down at me, and his expression was almost gentle. "I really am sorry about this, Emma. You seem like a nice person. But when Alex told you Chloe was going to expose him, I realized you might start putting the pieces together." "What pieces?" I wanted to ask, but speaking required more energy than I had left. "See, Chloe never actually knew about my cameras," Marcus explained, his voice taking on the patient tone of a teacher. "But she did know about Alex's little obsession with her. She was going to report him for stalking." Alex made a choking sound, so I simply told Alex that she discovered his secret activities and was planning to ruin his life. He filled in the blanks himself. Marcus chuckled. "The mind sees what it expects to see." I slumped to the floor, the cold tile shocking against my cheek. From this angle, I could see under the kitchen table to the living room beyond. Bodies lay scattered across the hardwood floor like broken dolls. Mia, Sarah, Jake. All of them still, all of them silent. "How many?" I managed to whisper. Marcus knelt down beside me, close enough that I could smell his cologne. Something expensive and cloying. "Just you and Alex left," he said. "Then I'll clean everything up, dispose of the evidence, and call the police to report a terrible tragedy. Home invasion, probably, or maybe a murder-suicide. I haven't decided yet." He stood up and turned back to Alex, who was pressed against the far wall of the kitchen like he was trying to merge with it. "Put down the bat, Alex. Stay away from me." Alex's voice cracked. "You're crazy. You're fucking crazy." "I'm logical." Marcus stepped toward him, the knife steady in his grip. "You're the one who lost control. You're the one who started swinging the bat like a madman. Because you made me think I didn't make you do anything. I simply provided information and let you draw your own conclusions. Marcus was close enough to strike now. Poor, invisible Alex finally snapped under the pressure of being ignored. The bat came up in a desperate arc, but Marcus was ready for it. He sidestepped easily and buried the knife in Alex's stomach. Alex's scream echoed through the house. As he fell, I saw something that made my failing heart skip a beat. My phone, lying on the floor where I'd dropped it. The screen was cracked, but it was still glowing. 911 was displayed at the top. I must have managed to hit the send before Marcus stabbed me. How long ago was that? Time felt strange and elastic. It could have been seconds or hours. Marcus stood over Alex's twitching body, watching with clinical interest as blood pooled beneath him. "Don't worry," he said. "It won't take long." That's when I heard them. Sirens, distant but getting closer. Marcus's head snapped up, his calm facade cracking for the first time. "No," he whispered. "No, no, no." He looked down at my phone, then at me, his face twisted with rage. "You little bitch." He raised the knife again, but my vision was already fading. The sirens grew louder, mixing with the sound of my own labored breathing. I did it, I thought, as darkness crept in from the edges. Someone will know the truth. But as consciousness slipped away, I heard Marcus's voice, clear and panicked. "Help! Please, someone help us. There's been an attack." And I realized, with the last of my fading awareness, that he was going to try to play the victim, the only survivor, the traumatized witness to a terrible tragedy. My eyes closed as red and blue lights began to flash through the windows. The last thing I saw was Marcus dropping the knife and covering his hands with Alex's blood, getting ready to tell his story, getting ready to lie. I never got to hear what he told the police. Never got to know if they believed him. I wonder if he's planning his next party, looking for another invisible moment, another perfect crime. I should have left when I heard the first scream, but I didn't. And now I'll never really leave that house at all.